Hello, everyone, and welcome to Barrel Banter. This is Will,
Banter. This is Jared.
and Peyton will not be joining us today. At least we don't think. But me and Jared are going to be holding it down today. Jared, if you don't mind me asking, what are you drinking over there for today?
Yeah, it's just a different day over here, and I feel like we are on the same wavelength because I'm drinking a Guinness. It's
Let's
happening.
go.
Here it is. I'm drinking a
Let's
Guinness.
go.
Is that whiskey? No, but is it delicious? Yes. Sue me. I
Absolutely.
don't care. But I think Will, you might be in the same ballpark. So what do you have?
Yeah, so I'm glad we're on the same wavelength. Yeah, I'm on Fireman's Four. I think it's a blonde ale. So yeah, I
Love
went with
that.
the beer today. Just was
Love that.
ultimately trying to. I don't know. We have the whiskey and it's delicious. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I'm also like, I don't want to feel awful. So,
Yeah, so
but
I want to
yeah.
find a way that we could tie this in because we usually tie our whiskeys in. Is Fireman's Four, is that brewery an Austin brewery?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. But let me look.
It's a Texas
Maybe
brewery, right?
it is Texas, so maybe it is Austin, but it doesn't.
If it's an
Blanco,
Au-
so close. It's close,
okay,
basically.
that's close. That's close. So
Yeah,
Guinness is a Dublin brewery, So we're talking about hometown heroes, the
let's go.
locals, and that will lead us beautifully later on. Later on, stay tuned, listeners, to the Japanese GP. So that's our connection.
Love
But
that.
before we get there, Will, like you said, yes, Peyton is not here. He's again doing some fatherly duties. We gave him the open invite to show up with his kiddo. He's allowed to.
Yes,
Will he pop in
absolutely.
the middle of this podcast? We don't have a clue. If he does, it's going to be a great time. If he doesn't, we'll still have a great time. We miss him dearly. But I say let's get into the topics of the week. We have a couple of things to catch up on because we took Easter Sunday off last week, but we're here
Hmm.
now. Will,
That's
what's
right.
what's the talk of the sports world?
Well, I mean, there's a lot going on. So,
Yeah.
we're going to touch on a lot of these different topics. But first one I would like to just kind of briefly go over is we might have ourselves a problem in Houston because the Texans are balling out on the free agency slash roster building front. They traded for Stephon Diggs recently,
That's right.
which I don't know about you, man. They're trying to make some moves, and I think they've made themselves quiet contenders for the AFC, which is just bonkers. Because literally 2 years ago, they were the laughingstock of the NFL.
Yeah, it's something that as a lifelong Houston Texans fan, because of proximity to where I'm being raised, aka Houston, I don't believe it. Like I can't. When I saw that the Stephon Diggs trade happened and they're putting us in the article as Super Bowl contenders, not even divisional contenders, but Super Bowl contenders. I don't want to believe it
Exactly.
because the Texans have never been good. They've never made it anywhere, truly. And it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be a good showing of D'Amico Ryans and his coaching abilities to take what was a bunch of players playing above their status and now
Right.
players who actually are top talent
Yeah.
and bringing that together and seeing really if we can be competitive. So it's exciting. What's going to happen? Couldn't tell you. I'm just going to be pessimistic because that's my training. That's how I've been Pavlov dogged into the Texans suck.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. Absolutely. Well, it's tough with that because it's like, yeah, we're getting all this talent. They went crazy with the free agency. The defense got bolstered, all that stuff. But it's like, okay, C.J. Stroud had a great rookie season. Great, love that. Can he repeat that? We don't know. That's what they're really banking on is that C.J. Stroud is the same dude next year. So hopefully he does and shows up and shows out. I'll be a Houston resident at that point, so I
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
I hope to maybe make it to a game, just see what's up. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
That yeah,
But
we'll have
yeah,
to see. We'll have to see. But I think, that's that. Like you said, we'll have to see. But since Peyton isn't here, he can't really fight us on this. So why don't we talk about another Houston sports team, one that we do love dearly, the Astros. Um,
yeah.
what's going on?
Oh, dude.
They are currently 2-7 to start the season.
Hmm.
got absolutely
Mm-mm-mm.
obliterated by the Yankees.
Yeah,
Uh, Won a series against the Blue Jays,
that's
and
right.
then got obliterated 2 nights in a row so far by the Rangers, the reigning world champs. Who,
Oh,
like, to be honest, the Astros have been dominating the Rangers in past seasons, and they're getting the
yeah.
better of us right now. And it's not good looking for the silver boot, which is Astros versus Rangers over our record for the baseball season. Whoever has the better one gets the silver boot. But anyways, it's early days. 9 games out of a 180 game season, so you can't get too up in arms about it. But man, is our pitching hurting. Like that is
Oh,
our Achilles heel, and we knew it.
yeah, and yeah, both of you and I, we both talked about the pitching. We disagreed on whether it was bullpen or starting, but at the end of the day, it's been. I would say I think our starting has been actually coming out pretty good. I think our ERA as a team is pretty good, but the bullpen for sure is struggling. That is for sure. And it's tough to see. I mean, even our hitting though is like very inconsistent. So
Hmm.
that's just been really
But
just sucks to see.
yeah, and you're right. Like I don't think we can put it all on the pitching. Like there has been some good showings. Like literally, we had the first no hitter of the season.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
yeah.
gotta love that we pulled that off. But
Right.
we also were giving up lots of runs to the Rangers past 2 nights. Lost 7-2 the other day. The day before that, 10-2. I mean, that's an
Yeah,
absolute smashing. So
yeah, absolutely.
we'll have to see. Hold out hope, but
Yeah, it's early days, right? We're
it's
good.
early
It's
days.
early
It's early
days.
days.
You know,
This
the
we've been here
Astros.
before. We're
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we're
Altuve said he's
good.
not bothered, so
That's what all we need to know. You know,
life is good.
what's unfortunate, just the last thing is Joey Espada, right? It's his first season as manager. I just hope for his sake that like he does get they have a hot April or May, like kind of just get any of the circling vultures off his back, because it's the last thing this team needs is someone questioning the manager. But
Hmm.
I think it'll be all right. So,
Yeah, it'll be
anyways,
okay.
it's early days, like we
Yeah,
said.
but that's that. That's that about Houston. We should hop off the Houston train, and I personally don't know much about this, but you have some notes here about the NBA playoffs might have some major stars missing.
Dude, yeah. So we're heading into uncharted territory, I would say, in the last decade at this point. We potentially will see a playoffs without Steph and LeBron. I think when they're both actually healthy,
Mm.
which has not been seen in many years. We're seeing a true change of the guard happening there, which is I find quite interesting. But yeah, the NBA playoffs is coming up soon. You know, a lot of teams are jockeying for spots, especially down in those play-in seeds. Houston Rockets, in particular, are making a push. They're right on the bubble, I would say. But you got teams like Golden State that's also there on the bubble that's not looking too great. Lakers, same thing. But on the opposite side of the table, you got Boston Celtics in the East that are running the table. So I think it's
Hmm.
going to be really interesting playoffs because like the Celtics are kind of considered the best, but you've got the Suns on the other side. You've got even the Bucks. Like who knows what's going to happen with them? So I don't know, man. It's just going to be crazy, and especially if we get to the playoffs and we don't have the staples of like LeBron or Steph Curry. So I don't know. Just thought that was pretty wild to think about as a
Yeah,
sports fan.
definitely going to be interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, but LeBron hasn't been in the playoffs every single year recently, right? The Lakers have had some
Right.
pretty poor seasons, but has Golden State been consistently in?
Yeah. So if Steph is healthy, I think the stat was like when they're both healthy, they've never both missed it. It's
Oh,
one or
okay.
the other has missed before, but they're kind of like considered, the two, right,
Yeah.
two best, I would say.
Hmm.
And so for them both to be missing it as healthy players, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the only significance there. But yeah,
Yeah. Something to look out for. An interesting storyline. Be
mm,
an interesting stat for them to accomplish in a negative way. But we'll see.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, speaking of basketball, let's move this over to what happened over the last couple weeks. I'll start on the women's side because the game is going on right now. We've got the final of the undefeated South Carolina Gamecocks versus Iowa Hawkeyes, led by Caitlin Clark. Game is tied 20. Well, just kidding. It's 30-27. Iowa's leading. Uh, it's been crazy. The stardom and fandom of Caitlin Clark has just been crazy. It's been awesome. I don't know if you've seen much about it, but it's pretty wild over here for
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think been hearing that the women's Final Four and finals is garnering more attention than the men's. Now, I don't know if that's been statistically proven yet, but I do believe that there's been a lot more hype about women's this year.
Yeah,
Specifically, I think there is a Caitlin Clark effect in there with
right.
just her dominance and the fact that she's absolutely, I don't know what words, even superlatives to describe her, but just like dominating the sport. And so, yeah, it's interesting to see, but like they're in the finals just as like they should be. And like you said, the game is literally going on right now, so we might keep you updated. It's the second quarter, so I think we'll
Yeah,
be wrapped before it wraps. But yeah, all tied up. So will South Carolina finish a perfect season? I think South Carolina won the championship a couple years back, right?
yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
So
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see some two juggernauts here. But
for
yeah,
sure.
the women's basketball has been garnering a lot of attention this year, and I'm curious to see how that continues to grow.
Yeah, no, and I think it's well deserved. I think the ladies have been playing really well, and they have entertaining basketball to play. And it's I'm happy for them that they're getting a little bit more recognition. I think that'll carry over to the WNBA as well. So
Mm-hmm.
good for them, and
It'd be
hopefully
good.
that continues.
But I guess
But
yeah, if you want the boring side of basketball, the men's
right,
Final Four, that
right,
was yesterday,
yeah.
and is it predictable? Are we in a predictable matchup here? We have number one UConn, a win over Alabama, and number one Purdue, a win over NC State, the little Cinderella in there. So
Yeah.
UConn going for the back to back, and Purdue's up in there. How you feeling about that matchup?
So I think it's going to be interesting. Now, it's crazy to see Purdue show up and show out this way. Like typically they don't ever get over the hump, especially in the early rounds. They'll be seeded high and just they'll get busted up by some lower seed team. But they have played, I would say, very controlling, dominant basketball throughout the tournament, and same with UConn. Um, Purdue's a little bit more of a controlled machine. Like they know what they're good at and they stick to it, and they know it typically is going to win more often than not. UConn is just this juggernaut of team that just doesn't know how to lose at this point. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited for the matchup. I know the big storylines around the big boys down there in the paint. They're the kind of the leading, I would say, catalysts for the team. So I'll be curious to see how the matchup plays out. That'll be tomorrow, and I don't know. I think I've got UConn pulling the repeat, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if this is even an accurate statement, but I feel like UConn's been pretty comfortable this tournament, and that's
Right.
something that a lot of people thought that they would falter on because people haven't team hasn't gone back to back since Florida in the early 2000s.
Hmm.
So,
That's right.
um, yeah, I think everybody's feeling that the back to back is just so much more difficult to achieve.
Right.
But here they are. So maybe the Huskies will get their back to back.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be should be an exciting game though for sure. Um, but yeah, I think that's probably all we have for March Madness as it draws to a close here tomorrow night. Um, but Jared, would you mind walking us through the very important race that went down as of yeah, a few hours ago? I
As
guess a lot of
of
hours at this point.
14 and a half hours ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe it's a lot more hours than that.
Yeah, that's when it started. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this morning, at least for me, this morning we had the Japanese Grand Prix. It was at 6 a.m. Dublin time, and I just happened to be up, so I was watching it this morning. And overall, just overall thoughts, it was a good race. I thought it was an enjoyable race. A lot of differing strategies, a lot of overtakes, but at the end of the day, the ultimate winner was as normal Max Verstappen in the lead, basically start to finish. Checo Perez completing the Red Bull 1-2.
Mm.
And then Carlos Sainz coming in with a good P3 for Ferrari, continuing Sainz's run of excellent performance as of recent. Red Bull had honestly just a really dominant weekend with Max and Checo P1, P2 in qualifying, P1, P2 in the race. Fun fact on just their qualifying was that Checo missed Max's pole time by I think 0.06 seconds. So we were like 0.006. It was very, very close between them.
Jeez.
Max came on the radio and said it wasn't the best lap, but it was good enough. So he seemed pretty disappointed with it. But
Mm.
that's just Suzuka for you, man. Suzuka is a demanding circuit. It's a fun circuit, and it caught a lot of drivers out. But it turned out to be, I think, a really good race. There's a lot of differing strategies, a couple of oddball moments in there that caused some wrenches in the plans. But yeah, that's
Mm.
my like overall picture there.
Yeah.
But probably to bring it back around to our beginning intro where we decided that at the last minute to connect our brews to our hometown is Yuki Tsunoda, Japanese driver in his hometown Japanese Grand Prix, scored points.
Let's go,
So
Yuki.
great race from Yuki. Good job pulling it into P10. It was a well-deserved single point for him. Hype for him.
Dude, he is carrying that RB team on his back. Holy smokes.
No, genuinely,
Uh,
Yuki is driving so well right now.
yeah, I think he's definitely been galvanized by the whole Daniel Ricciardo teammate situation, just like him just always being looked over. It seems like I feel like he is just on a mission this year. So, uh, it's not surprising if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. But yeah, that
Yeah.
man is driving extremely well.
Yeah, so congrats to Yuki. It's good on him for getting points this home Grand Prix. First Japanese driver to get points in a while. I can't remember who the last one was, but the last one was on the podium. But speaking of Tsunoda and his teammate Ricardo, Ricardo had a interesting Japanese Grand Prix wherein he did not make it past lap 3. That's a lie.
Hmm.
I meant turn 3.
Yeah.
I meant turn 3. In my head, I said turn 3. Lap 3 came out. Apologies. Ricardo didn't make it past turn 3 because coming around on the race start, looking to his inside, fending off Fernando Alonso, I think looks left, peels his car right, makes contact with Alex Albon, and then both of them are spun off into the wall. Race over for Alex Albon, race over for Daniel Ricciardo, just as quick
Mm.
as it started.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah. I
unfortunate.
saw. Yeah. It was. When you watch the replay, you're just like, God, come on, guys. Like, you I get it. Everyone, especially in the first couple of turns of a race, you're antsy to get some spots where you can, and
Mm-hmm.
so I get it, but it's unfortunate. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's rough to see, and unfortunately, I think it's gonna bring just a more honestly unnecessary hate towards Ricardo and his drive so far this year. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like you look at his performance for this weekend leading into it, he didn't do FP1 because they had
Mm.
Imasu. I'm so sorry, I messed up his name, but they had a rookie driver in
Oh
on
yeah. Yeah.
FP1 in Ricardo's car for their rookie drive session. FP2 was essentially a worthless session. Over half the cars didn't go out.
Mm.
FP3 was Daniel's first real running that day, so we had an hour of running and then straight into qualifying. And in qualifying was only 2 tenths off Sonoda for P11. And honestly, that's nothing really to be disappointed with. I know he always wants more out of it, but to be that close with your teammate with only driving for 1 hour
Yeah.
that day, it was your first time on the weekend getting on the circuit. Like he had pretty good hope going into the race, P11 right behind Sonoda, and it really is a what if could be happening in that race for him. I know he did get not a
Yeah.
great start, but the crash wasn't necessarily his fault. It was a racing incident, and I think it's just going to bring some unnecessary, hate toward his name even more so.
Yeah. I feel bad for him, but at the same time, this has kind of been how he's been in each seat since he went to McLaren, where like everything is just inconsistent. Like the man can't consistently string together 4 or 5 races where he is like competitive with at least his teammate. Like McLaren, Lando's beating him 4 races, and then the 5th race, oh, Daniel has a good race. It's like, come on, man, you got to find some consistency. So hopefully, this is the sign that he's going to get some consistency going down the rest of the season.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that. But as a local Daniel Ricciardo fanboy myself,
Hmm.
I hope for better, and I hope he'll bounce back, and maybe China will be a breakout race for him.
Let's go.
So
Absolutely.
that's that. But in terms of the race just being interesting, like I said, there was a lot of differing strategies that came in there. And yes, the early red flag from Ricardo and Albon's collision did cause a little bit of interesting chaos. But um, a couple of teams tried to go for a one stop strategy, which seemed very kind of odd considering Suzuka is really labeled pretty straightforward as a two stopper. But Mercedes,
Whoa!
is that a third presenter, Peyton Madden?
What's
Peyton
up,
Let's
boys?
Madden.
go!
Let's
Oh my
go.
goodness. Okay, listeners, Peyton Madden is here as foretold. He may
What?
pop
What?
up and he's here. What's going on, brother?
What's cracking? What are you talking about right now, man?
We're just about to get into the discussion of which strategy was better, Leclerc's one stop or Carlos's multi stop.
Well, I am glad you asked. I'm gonna
Straight into
go
it.
with Carlos Sainz, baby.
Let's go. Let's
That's
go. Let's
awesome.
go. Oh man, I'm so
Yes.
glad you're here. By the way, are you consuming any beverages right now or no? It's okay if you're not.
No, I literally just got the son just woke up. My wife just got home, handed off, grabbed the mic, hopped in the quiet closet, and here I am. So
I
Let's
love
go.
it.
Let's go.
I'm
Love
Cheers to you,
it.
sleeping and
brother.
sober.
Cheers to you. Will and I are also both consuming beers, so it's a little bit of a
Nice,
different day, but here we are.
Yeah.
So
nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the race, Peyton? Did you get a good watch of it?
No, I haven't watched the full thing. I just caught some of the highlights. I'm gonna watch it right after I get off here. But I will say, don't want to talk about Red Bull because that's kind of boring. The Ferrari pace was the race pace was very interesting. I saw some comments about Lando being frustrated after the race and pretty much saying, this is a lost cause trying to keep up with Ferraris. I'm like, what a Lando comment.
Yeah.
Um, I need to go back and rewatch it, but it sounds like we had some a little bit of drama at the beginning. Looks like turn 2 or something with Albon and Ricardo. Looks like
Mm-hmm.
Ricardo can't catch a break, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had just been discussing that. I'm sending you the show notes right now so you can follow along. But
Okay.
yeah, we had just been discussing that, and our kind of takeaway was that I don't think it was necessarily anyone's fault, and Ricardo was pretty much doing the best he could up to that point, anyways, with only really doing one real practice session himself and coming in right behind Sonoda in qualifying. It was a racing incident, so I think it's just going to put some unnecessary hate on his name.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
Hold on,
But
I'm reading your notes here.
yeah. You're good. You're good. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, the Ferrari pace, like you said, was really good there, and the fact that they got Leclerc out of P7 up into P4 with that one stop strategy was a really excellent move. And then to get Carlos all the way to P3 with his multi stop, I mean, the Fred Vasseur Ferrari era is looking up and up.
Looking
So,
nice.
this is the 4th race of the season, but I don't think we'll jinx it now, but it looks like they fixed their tire degradation issues from last year, which
Mm-hmm.
is huge because they've always had the pace, but that's
Yep.
interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah, they
Well,
are
especially.
definitively the second best team in the grid right now.
Yeah, I was about to say that, Jared. Yeah, they're at this point, I would say they're the second fastest car on the grid, and
Mm-hmm.
as long as you can make sure those tires and also your strategy lines up, they should be pulling in P3, P4, and then P1 if someone falls out of the race. So it's nice.
Exactly. Which real quick, I don't have this in the notes here, but did y'all see Lewis Hamilton's post race interview?
Oh no.
Negative.
So essentially, to break it down, a interviewer, reporter asked him, "Are you jealous of seeing Ferrari's pace this year?" And he literally
Oh,
said, don't you have any better questions to ask? And then got up and left.
That would be a yes.
Yeah.
So,
That's
that's
a
funny.
yes.
But, like, I think that's a dumb question. Like, he's like, I'm literally going there next year. But, like, I'm focused on this year. So,
Yeah.
They're just
that's
trying
good for
to
him.
incite drama when there is none.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he's starting to look like a
Yeah.
genius, though, just like with the
Oh,
McLaren
truly.
Mercedes move.
Which another post-race interview that's kind of playing to that is that Fernando Alonso, who's been pretty, I'm not gonna say wishy-washy, but not revealing in kind of where his mind's at and seats for next year. They asked him again, "What do you think about the Mercedes seat? It's open," and his response was, "Well, they're behind us, so it doesn't really seem that appealing, does it?" And I was like, "Oh, oh."
Yo.
Spicy.
So
Love it.
yeah.
Love it.
That was some interesting commentaries after, but I think one of the other big takeaways I had from the race is that the gap between the top 4.5 teams to the rest of the field is absurd, especially at the circuit. And I say 4.5
Yeah.
because
Because
that
Lance
is
Stroll.
because Lance Stroll, because that is Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, and Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
Lance
That's
Stroll
fair.
does not count in that one. But man, that gap is huge. Just the fact that Yuki Tsunoda, who came in P10, was lapped, and he finished, right after Max and Checo, and was a lap down in the points. The gaps were just absolutely insane between them. I mean, even in qualifying, the fact that in qualifying, I think it was maybe Q1, maybe Q2, the top 7 cars didn't even go out for another
Yeah.
or another fast lap at the end. Like, when you see that happening, it's maybe the first car doesn't go out again, but 7 vehicles not going out for another fast lap because they're confident they're going to make it to the next round of qualifying. Like, the gap was massive.
Mm. Yeah. Hopefully the regulations that came out this era, the idea was that it's supposed to bring it all back together, and it feels like it's just coming right back apart. So I'll be curious to see if the next set of regulations in 2026 make any difference with that, for sure.
Yeah, some of the tractors at the back have to get better. I mean, Alpine still slow.
Oh man, that thing is
Haas looks
awful.
okay. The Kick Sauber, Bottas is getting a lot out of it, but honestly, Zhou is quietly bad this year.
Yeah.
So, but it was so apparent that this race, that the gap between the top teams and the bottom teams just like is dumb.
So, what's going on with this Lance Stroll radio message? Did he go Qatar and lose his mind again?
So glad you asked, Peyton, because now that we've talked about the top 4.5, let's get the other half of Fernando Alonso's team in here. And I don't even know if this is legal. Please don't come for us, Formula One. But I have the radio message here, and I want y'all to listen to it. And if you haven't listened to it, it's just good. It's just good. So here we go. Lance Stroll radio message. The scenario is he's slow. There you go.
Well, Piastri's been there the whole time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Yes,
Bro.
Lance Stroll had the voice crack of all voice cracks in his radio message. He's complaining. He said, "We're so slow in the straights. It's a different category." But his voice cracked, and man, like, I laughed so hard. And I'm gonna be honest, like, I have to give grace because I'm not driving a car at 200 miles an hour while trying to radio my team. But good night was I laughing.
That's terrible.
That is not what I was expecting, but I loved it.
A different category.
But yeah, also I get it because, like you said, going at 200 miles an hour, like I'm sure I would, you have some type of reaction. But
yeah, he's probably getting a little like this breath squeeze out of him while he's talking. But
yeah, he's going
the fun
through
fact,
4Gs.
Yeah. So it was enjoyable. I'm glad I include that in there. But the interesting fact on that little radio message as well is that people think it's like a nod to Alonso because if you remember Alonso's infamous it's like we're driving a GP2 engine in his Renault days.
Mm-hmm.
He did that radio message at Suzuka. So it
Oh,
was same
Uh,
track, different team, same story, and saying it's in a different category, but Lance Stroll just took it to another octave.
yeah, some real foil hat stuff right there.
I love it.
Yeah, I
That was
think.
great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
glad I didn't catch that. That's awesome.
But yeah, I
Uh,
think what y'all mentioned earlier about Lando Norris being kind of disappointed at the end. Is McLaren good or not?
okay, I have some thoughts.
Tell
So
us.
the bar. So what's the expectation? I guess that's the real question, because that's what decides if they're good or not. Because as of this time last year, they were awful. So there's a lot of progress that's been made, right? Especially since midway last season. But I would say compared to last year, they're on a good track, right? But what are the expectations? That really decides. I think honestly, they're still good. They're not top two, but they're probably top three or four. Probably top three. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I think to your point, Will, it depends on what we're measuring it against. Are we measuring against the way they finished last year or where they were at this time last year? So if it's
Right.
against this time last year, then yeah, they've progressed and they're a top, arguably third team, top three team. But if you're going to compare it to where they were at the end of last year, that's also not a fair assessment because you know everybody else got better too. So yeah, their car probably did get better than the end of last year, but that's
Right.
also doing a disservice to Ferrari and Red Bull and well, yeah, not Mercedes, but on what
Yeah.
they did over the winter break. So it's hard to measure. I would say based off what we've seen, they're good. They're just kind of stuck in that weird no man's land of they're not quite near Ferrari, they're not near Red Bull, but yet they're better than the rest. So it's kind of a weird limbo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really is that whole conversation. Well, you brought it up, nailed it on the head. Like, what do you compare it to? And McLaren was the most hyped team, I'd have to say, coming into this season based on their progress of last season. But one of
True.
just the interesting points is that Suzuka is race 5, whatever it is this year, race 4. But
Mm.
last year, it's a late in the season. It's like race 18 or something like that. I don't know if exactly that, but it's towards the end of the season.
Oh.
In
Yeah.
Suzuka, a McLaren preferred track with a late season upgrade McLaren, which they should theoretically be bringing to the new season. Lando Norris was P2 and Oscar Piastri was P3. They had
Mm-hmm.
a double podium in Suzuka last year, and
Mm.
they didn't touch the podium nearly at all
That's a good
this year.
point.
So I can see where the disappointments come, but I still think McLaren should hold out some hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
what's going on internally? Is that going to affect it? Well, I know you were saying earlier that their technical director left after only 3 months,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's
Um.
a
Right.
story of just unrealized expectations, maybe bad communications on what expectations are. Hopefully, nothing crazy comes of it. But man, I would be disappointed to see McLaren have a meteoric rise and then just kind of fall flat.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
So,
Which, I mean, I don't think they will, but I mean, you never know, like you said. But I mean, the good thing is they're competitive towards the top. Well, sort of.
facts.
No one's really competitive with Red Bull at this point, but
Yeah.
other than that, they're competitive. So yeah, they should have hope. That's my thought.
Drink that
They
Guinness,
should.
boy.
Drinking the Guinness. But I think that's enough of McLaren. Let's wrap up our thoughts on the Japanese Grand Prix by thinking of a broader topic. Logan Sargent. Moment of silence for the man. I want to go USA, USA, and have bald eagle sounds in the background screeching. But after being quite possibly shafted in the Australian Grand Prix, where we all know Albon crashed. Albon got Sargent's car. Sargent was told to go sit down and have a nice day. Logan Sargent came out with, mind you, if you didn't know this, they permanently swapped their cars, and Alex kept the undamaged chassis, and Logan Sargent kept Alex Albon's old damaged chassis. Crashed it aggressively in free practice 1.
Hell yeah.
The car was not repaired for free practice 2, which technically he got away with because nobody did any running in free practice 2.
Yep.
And then spun off in the race randomly.
Yeah.
How many more races? How many more?
Ooh.
Well, who's the reserve for Williams though? The reserve driver. Do we know?
That's a great question. I don't even know if they have one, but honestly, my guess, if I had to guess, would actually be Mick Schumacher, because Mick Schumacher is a Mercedes driver, and I think they might share.
That would make sense.
Well, and I'm sure if they really wanted to, they could go dip into Formula 2. I know there's some prospects there, but if someone wanted the seat, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, this man needs to. I don't know if Williams is going to be as cutthroat. I mean, James Vowles is pretty legit, so I don't know, but I don't know how cutthroat they're going to be. You saw AlphaTauri axe DeFries last year, pretty not super quick, but they definitely they weren't getting the results, so they bounced him. So I'd be curious to see how long he lasts comparatively to that timeline that the DeFries had.
Yeah, I could foresee a mid-season swap if he continues to crash and continues to be poor. There's one theory I've seen pushed out there that Mercedes really wants Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli is kind of a gamble, but they're looking at him like the next Max Verstappen. Toto supposedly rues the day that he didn't jump on Max Verstappen and let Red Bull get a hold of him. But taking a risk on a 17-year-old, all these things, put him in a full-time drive straight at a top team of Mercedes, top team. What if Toto pushes James Vowles to take Kimi Antonelli and test him basically for the second half of the season and see if he really is ready for that big drive? Could be an option. The fun part about that is that Formula One, you have to be 18 now to drive in Formula One, and Kimi Antonelli turns 18 during the summer break.
Interesting.
So,
whoa,
could be something.
Interesting.
Foil hats for that one.
But yeah, do either of y'all think Logan can make it to the end of the season?
No. He definitely won't make it past this season. That's 100% confirmed.
Oh, yeah. I think that's...
Yeah. No, I don't think he makes it. No, I do not.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to watch. It's kind of like the why sign him again if he's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're already going to, if he's so bad that you're going to literally give Albon every available working car.
Yep.
Over him, then you need.
You just answer your own question.
Yeah, why would you you should have someone in that's at least competitive that you trust him with that vehicle. So, yeah, he's not making it.
Yeah, sad day for America.
Yeah.
No, it truly is. But yeah, I think I'd agree with y'all. It's kind of not a if, but when is he gonna get the boot? We tried, America tried, but
we also
We
also picked the American prospect that came in out of nowhere and didn't pick any of the most hyped ones either. So, that's shame on us and shame on the people over in Europe. So
true.
Yeah.
They picked a guy from Florida. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Miami, baby.
Oh, jeez.
Should put Ricky Martin in there.
Hey, real quick, interrupt. Update: South Carolina is up by 3 at halftime with Iowa. So we got ourselves a ball game, boys.
We do have ourselves a ball game. Thank you for that update. Yeah, I think that's going to be our last update on that, because I think that's our thoughts really wrapped on the Japanese Grand Prix. But
True.
I think I'd like to toss it up and just say, what are y'all's final thoughts on the happenings of sports? Anything?
Peyton, you got anything in particular?
I will say that Caitlin Clark's going to have to put up another 21 plus in the second half if they want a shot at winning because South Carolina is too stacked. I don't think the Midwest boys at Purdue can get her done tomorrow night against UConn. UConn looks like a freight train, but we'll see. It'll have to be another one of those Zach Edey, going off for 40 and 20 boards, but we'll see. But, I think it was a fairly good college basketball tournaments for men's and women's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it played out for the most part the way they should have played out. So it was a good tournament. I was happy with both.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Peyton, I got a quick question for you.
Okay.
Just curious on your reaction. So how about that Stephon Diggs trade?
Ah!
Yeah.
Dude, the Bills are literally paying $4 million extra for him to not be on their team.
I know.
You saw that cap charge?
I saw they were gonna the dead cap was pretty high, but I didn't
31
realize.
million.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
Biggest
jeez.
non-quarterback dead cap
Oh,
charge. Yeah, I mean it's great for the Texans. Texans been making moves all off season, and I think what they did void in the last 3 years of Diggs' contract so he can be a free agent next year is good. I mean, they gave up nothing for him. So,
right.
it gives it a prove it or you can go elsewhere next year. We don't really care. But, Texans been doing a lot of great stuff this offseason. So we'll see how they're doing in those new unis.
Yeah, good
And
point.
Bills look rough, man. They got no weapons for Josh Allen, and he's not accurate enough to not have weapons in the passing game. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was reading something about how the GM, I think Brandon Bean was saying something about he wants Josh. He basically kind of wants to give Josh the opportunity to go make some ballers out of nobodies. So I assume they'll draft receivers and stuff like that to see if he can work with it. But
Yeah, for sure.
we'll see.
Well, they're also juggling the cap too with, obviously they had problems with Diggs, but they've also been struggling with the cap all off season. So that'll also help them for next year.
Right,
So.
exactly. But yeah, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that. We were talking about it briefly, and it's just like we were talking about how crazy it is. Like 2 years ago, the Texans were quite literally the bottom of the NFL, like the
Great
laughing
comeback.
stock. And now they're like, the word contender is being thrown out there. It's wild. So, but anyways, yeah. To be honest, I really thought Cowboys were going to make a run at Diggs since his brother's there, but I didn't. It looks like they didn't want to pony up or something. So,
Well,
I'm sure, and the cap too. I forgot.
I don't know how much Houston's paying, but
true.
Not surprised. Dallas isn't making any moves, so they're going to be the new laughing stock of Texas football. So,
you got Dak. What are you talking about?
Ah, man.
Well, we're gonna have to see how this NFL season plays out, but I think to wrap us up and take us home, my final thoughts has to be an update on a heavily requested topic from our listeners. The MLB uniforms has another fun little snafu, a couple of them, but
let's go.
One quick one is that they show crazy sweat stains, and the fans aren't really loving it, especially on the Yankees jerseys. It's just like big gray splotches.
Yes!
Love that.
That's just a fun fact. But the best one I've seen is this is a new update, actually, that the City Connect jerseys, the special edition, like hometown jerseys that every team has now, Fanatics has been unable to fulfill deliveries to the teams for them. And the Texas Rangers and the Milwaukee Brewers had to can plans to wear them for their Friday night home games. Rangers against the Astros on a nationally televised game didn't have their City Connect jerseys delivered and had to wear their regular white jerseys. Isn't that special?
Jeez,
that is, how can they miss a delivery? I mean, that's like probably one of the largest contracts they've ever received, and how could you mess that up?
It is the largest.
Not a freaking clue, dude. So, man, if I could just exist in the business of the sports world as fireworks go off behind me because I don't have a clue what's going on with this video camera,
All right.
and not have to make jersey shipments and pay people not to play for me. I don't know, man. It just sounds a great idea. But I think that's really all we have time for this week. Peyton, I'm so glad you jumped on and joined us.
Yep.
Will,
Yes.
thanks for being here too and all your thoughts. But Peyton, since you're here, do you want to take us home?
I would love to. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to these three dorks here. This has been another episode of your favorite podcast, Barrel Banter. I almost said F1 Flights again. Come on. This has been Peyton.
This has been Jared.
And this has been Will.
Adios.
Adios.
You've just listened to an episode of Barrel Banter Podcast. Subscribe to the show so you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. Support the show by giving us a 5-star rating and sharing with your friends. Follow us on social media at Barrel Banter Podcast.